What's up, Hoop Reporters? It's your boy Manny here, and welcome to the first ever edition of the Hoop Report, the NAIA Women's Basketball Podcast, as we bring you everything, your go-to source for NAIA Women's Hoops. I'm very, very pleased to be able to bring this platform to you guys, revive this platform, and I think it's going to be such a success, and I'm so excited for already the support that we have gotten on our social media platforms, and I know this podcast is going to just do great. And especially because we're starting off with one of the best possible interviews that I could even ask for. Somebody who did something so amazing last year. It had me, and I know a lot of people at the edge of their seat, probably more than he and his team know. But please help me in welcoming Coach Chris Nelson from the Bethel University Lady Wildcats. Coach, thank you so much for coming on. Again, we talked about it a little bit before. We've talked about it a little bit behind the scenes before we started recording officially here. I cannot wait to pick your brain on what you guys did last year. It was so much fun, and I'm just so excited to have you here.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. Honored, humbled. Appreciate you taking this platform and, taking it to another level. It's great for the NAIA. I know all the coaches and players will be excited about it. It's just, our level, and I hate when people say our level, doesn't get enough exposure. And that's just the nature of the beast. But this right here is only going to help and propel it forward.
No, absolutely. I can't wait. I'm glad, like I said, everybody's been so supportive behind the scenes. Coaches like yourself, players have already kind of started following the podcast and starting following the platform. So I'm really, really glad to get into it. But first things first, we got to give you your flowers. You and this Bethel team did some amazing things last year. You specifically, Coach of the Year. You lead Bethel to their 15th tournament appearance, their first Fab Four appearance, and their first Mid-South Conference tournament title, as well as crossing 400-plus wins for your career. The individual awards, obviously, I know you as a coach, and just in a few minutes, I know you're more focused on your team success, but I had to bring up your individual stuff because I know you weren't going to. You're too humble of a man to do that. But what are you going to remember more so from the entire campaign, from the ups, from the downs, everything? When you think back to 2024, 2025 season for your team, what is going to stand out the most?
Man, if you just, like I said in one of the interviews there at NAIA, if you could channel it in a bottle, you could sell it for $1 million because the feeling that we had during that run was just magical. I'd asked my wife after the Mid-South Conference tournament run, when we were on the way to Sioux City, I said, it's just the best run we've ever been on, because I'll tell you when it's over. And we were on the bus ride home. She goes, it's the most special run we've been on. And that's with all due respect to some great players we've had in teams, because we've been to Sweet 16s and Elite 8s with some other groups and just, barely missed the Fab Four. So it's just really special with that group and the way it snowballed and all came together. I told you before we got on air, the biggest secret is just players and people. And apple don't fall far from the tree. We have great parents. They were great. Our fan base supported. Our town supported. So all that combined, I went through different stretches after season. Probably hit me on vacation. But you think about the struggles we had during the year. Were they really struggles? We were just growing pains. The Mid-South Conference run, the first, second round here, and then obviously the Fab Four run. So all of it together is really what makes it special.
No, absolutely. And we can't talk about last year without talking about the year before, because I truly believe to understand the impact of the destination, you got to first understand the journey. And 2023, 2024, the journey was a little rough. The team went 13-16, 0-12 in the Mid-South. What was the mindset for the staff going from 23-24 to 24-25 that made you all believe this is going to be a very special year?
We just didn't want to be sitting at home in March. That's just a cold feeling. It's the best time of the year. I say that all the time to our team. It's the dog days of February. Your team's either living or dying. You know what's around the corner. And we went through a stretch, and I told you, people have short memories. People have a short memory after this season. We start next year. Hopefully we'll build on another. But we were 13-3 before we lost our point guard, Callan Howard, a junior. And it just really – we wasn't a bad team. We were just a bad Mid-South team. We just couldn't keep our head above water. We lost a couple of close ones early. If we would have I feel strong we would have been in the national tournament. I don't think, we would have made that major run we did this year, but I think we released a first or second round team and give yourself a chance. So she was very focused on us getting back. Her rehab was important. MJ Simmons was coming off surgery, her shoulder. She was our backup post. It was very instrumental this year for us. But Cal was going on recruiting trips with Coach Reagan, my wife, Jennifer, and Cal wanted to make sure we got these kids to come in. She's very humble. She even gave her number up to Micah Hart. She goes, I'll give the number up if we can get her to sign. So she wanted to make sure we had those players, and we owed it to her and the other group, Madison Hart and the rest of the gang, to make sure we brought in the right pieces to make this run.
No, absolutely. And when you have a leader like that, it makes things so much easier for you as a coach. Now officially going into the 24-25 season, we talked about it. Your first technical loss was an exhibition game. So really, you all started on a 13-game winning streak, highlighted by a perfect 9-0 in November. What was it about that early success? What was the biggest reason you would say, trying to remember back now to that time, that allowed for that success?
Well, we knew we had a talented group, and I don't shy away from telling people it's not to boast or be cocky or arrogant. People just ask you. I feel like you need to tell people the truth. Like, how's your team going to be? I tell everybody we're going to be really good. And I told our team that. I said, hey, I believe. I'm not saying I know everything, but I feel strong about this. And I said, now it's your job to go out and show them. So we tested ourselves early with the Murray State exhibition. I'll say that practice before we went to Murray State was the only practice all year I seen them tore up and nervous. We were consistent in practice. And after that, we got our feet wet there at Murray State. Great competition, great coaching style. And then we were fortunate to have another exhibition with Austin Peay and get the win. And you just seen in their eyes early, it's like, oh, wait a minute. We have something special here. Not that we didn't go through growing pains, but that early win and that exhibition, Austin Peay, sort of propelled us through that first half of the season.
No, absolutely. And again, you can see how that was able to like you said, propel them early. We're going to jump a little bit here because, again, there's a lot of success in that back end, and I really want to get to all of it. So we're going to go to – it's February. The team enters the month 18-7. You start the month with two really good wins over Cumberland and Lindsey Wilson. Cumberland of Tennessee, of course, and Lindsey Wilson. But before we talk a little bit more about that, we got to talk about – you already mentioned one of them. I got to talk about the other Hart sister, Madison Hart. What a year she had, specifically in that game against Lindsey Wilson. 36 points, a career high for her. She had such a dominant season, obviously a first-team All-American, first-team All-Conference, accolades on accolades on accolades. I just want to know, having a front-row seat to her in practice, her on the court, what allowed her to average 16-7 and shooting 47% from the field to be one of the most dominant players in the whole country?
Consistency, prior coaching, family genetics, just her whole makeup, man. We won't be able to find players like that down the road. Hopefully we will. I have to be optimistic that we will, but just people, you know what you're going to get every single day in practice. She's not going to have an attitude. She's going to finish first in everything. She's just going to get it done, and with the same face. It's emotionless almost. You'll see a couple times she'll get fired up on the M1, but just consistent every day. And the thing is, during that stretch, the first 2 years she had were not easy. So she'd been beat on a little bit, carried the weight early. And when we had that tough stretch, like you said, we were coming off those two wins, I could see a little frustration because we beat everybody we were supposed to beat, so to speak, but we hadn't beat anybody in front of us. And we had just a little hiccup there at home before senior day at Georgetown game. And I was mad at Madison. She was mad at me. We had a heart-to-heart here in the office, a little play on words for you. And she went out, and I could tell she was mad in practice. And hope she don't mind me telling this. Like I said, she never has a bad day. And I thought, man, I'm about to kick her out. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I'm not. Because, one, it's not about me. Two, you don't want to piss excuse my language, you don't want to make sister mad. So I was like, let her flow. And then all of a sudden she got to going. And sort of like our team did. We go into senior day, and, man, it was just the wheels all started rolling, and I just stayed out of the way.
We love that. Again, when your best player, when your leader is like that, and you coach them the hardest out of anybody, it just breeds success for everybody else. But speaking about that other sister, I know I would get in trouble if I didn't mention the other Hart sister there in that household, Micah Hart. She, obviously the younger of the two, but freshman of the year, 18-5 on 40, 37, and 80 shooting splits. Did she look like a freshman out there? Like, did she actually look like a freshman throughout the season where there's some mistakes, or did she look honestly like a seasoned vet who's been there before and just knows how to win even at the highest level?
Never. Smooth, is fast, as I'd say. You know what I'm saying? And fast is smooth. And I say that's our military term because I think when she's being recruited, everybody missed the boat. Everybody say, what's her motor like? What's her motor like? What are they talking about? Her heart rate's always the same. You hear people talk about game speed. Well, game speed is the way you do in practice. I wish we had that equipment so you can see her heart rate in the biggest moments. She's the type of kid, those palms aren't sweaty. I call it the Paul Pierce effect. Paul Pierce wasn't fast, but, man, he was the truth. And when you need a bucket, the moment's never too big. There's things she does in practice. Like, I try to hide my face, and I see her teammates will try to, wow, and I just try to go on normal, and then you just have to acknowledge it. What makes it easy is, I've known those kids since they were born. They're from the same hometown, and they would come to camp here. When Madison was in 8th grade, Micah got camper of the week here, and Madison was never jealous. There's no jealousy between the two. I would constantly say, who's our best player, Madison? Wanting Madison to say herself, she'd say Micah. That said, I really want to describe Micah in that fashion because the sky's the limit for that kid. We've only seen the tip of the iceberg.
No, I definitely believe that. And you talked a little bit about it there. Do you have any other stories for us that you can share from the season, the dynamic of having both Hart sisters on the roster, practice stories, anything like that you can share with the people at home to kind of give them a peek behind the curtain?
Yeah, like I said, there's zero jealousy there. And if there is, I wouldn't know it. And same with their teammates. They all appreciate each other, but we did one-on-one drills when we're going through that tough stretch of just, hey, you got to stop each other. Well, then all of a sudden they started guarding each other. And you always hear those stories of siblings, sisters, or even big-time players in practice going at each other, and it was just a different level. They were going at it, smiling while they were doing it, but it was competitive. You could tell they played a lot in the backyard. They played a lot in gyms together. That was a special story. I know we were on the road at Georgetown early in the year, and like I said, a lot of our preseason conference games were on the road, and I'm trying to tell our kids we're fine. We're losing close games. And, man, Micah just went off. She had 28 in the second half on Georgetown, 38 as a freshman, and they're just very competitive. And it was a lot of growing during that time, but it was also everybody was starting to understand their roles there. You'd see plays. Mickey Buchanan would make plays during practice, and Micah would just look over at me like, wow, that was impressive. So we all respect and appreciate each other. And that's not lip service. That's the whole secret behind winning and going through those tough times we had that allowed to get us to the good times. But it's just we had growing pains with the young group, that's for sure.
No, absolutely. And again, like you said, you got to go through the lows to get to the other side of that, and it honestly makes the highs feel so much better when you understand what you guys had to go through. But going back to the season now, you all are 27 after the 2 wins to start February. Like you mentioned, you dropped the next 3 in a row. However, that wrap up to that month and to the season on senior night over the passing overtime, I really feel like that was the launch pad to what ended up being such a great run. Do you feel like the entire month of February kind of capped with that regular season finale was a setup to what would come in March and going on, or do you think it went even deeper than that?
Yeah, I think the Mid-South allows that. You just got to get through it. Like, are you the same team if you're losing? Like, do you bring the same energy every day in practice, same mindset, or you handle winning the same as losing? Like you said, we were 18-7, got a huge 2 wins at Cumberland, who didn't win in our league, but our former assistant here, Mark Vaughn, great team. They beat other teams out of our league, but was just struggling in the Mid-South. Got a big win against Lindsay where Madison went off for 36, put on a show, and then we haven't beat anybody in front of us yet. And that was the hardest part of the year for me, making sure our girls understood that. Because when we had a young group, Madison had been beat up on, Cal was getting back healthy, and just have Madison, after 2 years of struggles, to understand, hey, we're right there. And those games early were at Georgetown, were at Free, in a close veteran team that beat us, tough team, and then lost by 5 at Cumberland's Kentucky, who just went to the 5-4 the year before, and we're right there and say, hey, we'll get them on the swing back when we're coming home. But when we came back at home, we lost another tough one to Freed here, packed house, and then we just flat out missed the whole day against Georgetown. It was horrible against Georgetown, and that's where, like I mentioned, Madison and I had the heart-to-heart, and it led into senior day, and everything just hit at the right time. We started a senior that don't get to play a lot, Brooklyn Williams. Coach Reagan leaned over and said, you want to get her out? Yeah, I said, no, she's got a little momentum, and she sort of got us going. Kyla Taylor got us going, and we won by 20 at home against a nice team in Cumberland, Kentucky. I think they finished the season number 1. They just solidified everything we've sort of been trying to tell them. It doesn't matter how many times I tell them until they do it and believe it, and after that, I think they truly believe.
No, absolutely, and we're gonna the rest of us here at Hoops Report are going to talk about, conference previews later as the month goes on. And I've been saying the Mid-South is it's a gauntlet. It's one of the best conferences in women's basketball in the NAIA, and I stand by that, being somebody who's been seeing a lot of different teams and have watched a lot of the best go at it. The Mid-South is just like you said, sometimes it's about getting out of there. Can you be one of the teams that get out of there? That's why you guys have so many from this past year alone that made it to the national tournament. But talking about the end of the season, you all finished with the 5th seed. What's the mood going into the Mid-South tournament? What is the mood from the team, from players, from you and your staff? What is that overall mood as you get ready for that 4th seed and a rematch against that Georgetown team that you feel like didn't get your best shot?
Well, you set that up perfect. I always say, I would tell our team, a young group, I'm trying to show them the national scene I'm fortunate to be on the selection committee for the national tournament. And I was telling everybody, I was mentioning Southern Oregon, just so happened we played them. I was mentioning all these teams across the country that are good. So if we just get out of this league, we'll be fine. And so while we're going through that tough stretch, I would go while they were getting stretched or whatever they were doing, I would just talk to them before practice, get a vibe, and I would just, this is the conversation I would ask people daily. I said, would you rather have a Fab Four or would you rather have a Mid-South Conference Championship? Well, one of them said, hey, Mid-South Conference Championship, coach. And another one said, hey, we want to play as long as possible, Fab Four. Well, I asked Madison Hart one day, and this is before we started winning, she goes, well, why don't we just do both? We got to think we were 5th seed, 18-7 at the time. We go on to play Georgetown, who just thumped us good at home before we beat Cumberland's. And our team knows, because my wife travels with us. She's on our staff. She was a great player at Union University with Mark Campbell, won a couple national championships. She won't tell you that, but I will. But she didn't pack her pillow. And I said, why did you not pack your pillow? She goes, we're not going to win. And she's very honest with me. And I told her team later, I said, you can't dream as big as I can dream. I said, my wife didn't even bring a pillow to dream. And after that first win, after we got Georgetown really good in the conference tournament, it changed. A 5th seed would be a 1 seed or a 2 seed in most leagues. So we knew what we had to run through. We were the only one. If Georgetown would have beat us, they were going to have to run through the same gauntlet, same with Campbellsville. So you get through that, you feel good about it all. But that run was pretty special when we did that. And we got Georgetown. Felt great. We had a day off. Then you get Cumberland's, Kentucky. Felt great. And then we were playing in Campbellsville, and she's my best friend in coaching. It was wild. Those 3 games were wild, and to see our kids being able to celebrate and with our fan base and families there, it was just as special as the Fab Four run in my eyes. Probably our players would tell you the Fab Four, but it was just as special.
I can definitely understand that. And I mean, like you mentioned, you start the postseason with that 84-58 victory that I'm sure felt a little sweeter than maybe a typical opening round postseason game would. And you mentioned it, your prize for winning such dominantly is technically 2 number 1 seeds, because Cumberland's and the Tigers, they both were technically the co-regular season champions. So you had 2 number 1 seeds in front of you. You all, in the game that against the Pats, where 3 20-point quarters, the offense just seemed to be going. You said it yourself, you felt great. What allowed you to put up 72 points against a number 5 team in the country that, in their own right, were not just seen as Mid-South contenders, but national contenders at that level?
Yeah, they were contender to get back to the Fab Four, and probably would have if they didn't run up against a really good Marion team. A game could have went either way, but the Georgetown team we beat, we thought, and our team felt that way, was one of the most talented and better teams in the country. Great coach. And it's just the way it fell. So we were fortunate and happy to get that one in big fashion. So our confidence was rolling. But we were an offensive team all year. And we had said that, last year we didn't have a lot of room for mistake. We were in the 50s. This year we wanted to be in the 80s. Well, again, former assistant that's at Cumberland, Tennessee now, Mark Vaughn, he said, you're not guarding like you used to. So we actually started those defensive drills about a month ago. So I think our defense allowed all that offense in that semifinal game. He was playing everybody close, and he was just honest with me. And we went back to the drawing board with some of our younger players. We had skipped some steps in the preseason, and it's my fault. And when we did that, I think our kids bought in. The film session, when I showed them when they were rotating, it paid off. And then, side note, I don't know if you can do this, but I told them, I said, anybody that takes a charge here, we're going to give you $50. All of a sudden, they're taking charge left and right, looking at the bench. So a different type of energy with they took pride in getting stops, which led to the offensive end. And that was another fun game, another tough game. And there wasn't much time to celebrate and enjoy it because we knew what was around the corner.
And around the corner was the number 3 team in the country in this Tigers team. I think that's a great segue because I literally wrote down in my notes that was a defensive gem for both teams. Both teams you could tell, came in with the mindset of, we're going to make this other team's offense earn every single point, whether it's a free throw, a layup, a jumper, whatever it is. You're going to have to work for just one, let alone an entire 40 minutes. But to hold this Tigers team to 47 points through 40 minutes, what did you see from your team on that side of the ball defensively, taking pride in just sitting down, guarding, rotating, and sacrificing for one another?
You said it, sitting down, guarding, rotating, and we tell our team in tournament games and postseason games, you're going to win different fashion. One, it might be having to score. One, it might be having to grind out. And you see a team 3 times, which probably played to our advantage there because we had a young group and a senior-led team in Campbellsville with a great coach, and we got to see their zone 3 times. And I thought Callan Howard, our quarterback of our team, senior point guard, she was instrumental in helping break it down. And of course, they had missed some key bunnies in the game, and we did too. It was just a knockdown, drag out. And Coach Collins would remind me during the year, she goes, y'all are really good. You might know it, your team just don't know it yet. So she believed in us. We believed in ourselves. It just got there, in that third, fourth quarter, and we're looking up. I think it's a credit to our girls for not being happy just about that first 2 games. They wanted to finish the deal, and we were fortunate to finish it. And it was just a very classy moment on Campbellsville's part at the end of the last minute, and then the way we were able to cut the nets down there in Bowling Green. But a lot of people don't know this. We had never even won a conference game at Bowling Green since we've been in the league. We had some great success in the Southern States, good success in the Trans-South, but we had never won a conference game in Bowling Green, so it was fun staying that whole week.
The fun that you guys had, and it's like you mentioned, a lot of times, most of these conference tournaments, depending on where you finish, it's maybe 3, max of 4 games just to cut down those nets and then be the one to do it. And like you said, it's probably going to be a game where everything's going offensively, a game where everything's going defensively, and then a game where if you want it, you got to fight for it all the way through. So you guys hit every single nail and every single one. But for those of you at home, let's just run down what this Bethel team just did. Heading into the national tournament, they beat the number 5 team in the country twice. They beat number 11 and then number 3 en route to that Mid-South title. After the championship game, you said, and I'm quoting here, these girls never stopped believing, they embraced every challenge, and tonight they were rewarded for their perseverance. Why did they keep believing? What about this team allowed them to keep believing in themselves to be able to do something that I'm not going to say no one thought they could do, but very few thought they were going to be able to do?
I've said it, and people are probably sick of hearing it. You win with people and obviously talented players. Apple don't fall far from the tree. Like I always say, we have great parents, great foundation. A lot of coaches say, you don't talk to your parents. We do. I mean, we're actively recruiting our players, make sure they're happy, make sure they're staying here. But our parents raised some tough kids, and our kids were tough enough to see through those dark moments. And you take that on in the life, too. We'd always tell them that. I knew they were good enough before they knew they were. It's just they had to prove it to themselves. And to see it all come into their, at one time, the smile on their faces. When we were recruiting Micah said, Coach, I don't want to be a bad team. I said, well, we hadn't always been a bad team until we had this injury last year, and we were getting on that ladder. So we're not that bad of a team now, are we? She gave a big smile, and she cut the net down up there. Just, I always refer to it as a good band, and it's cheesy, but everybody, you have your lead singer, but then you got somebody who on the drums has their moment, you got somebody on the saxophone has their moment, violin, whatever. Everybody at that moment's going to have their time to shine and jam out, and I think that's what our team did. Even Micah Madison had those points. You look during that run, Cal and Kylie hit some big shots, Enzo with some post defense and charges. Mickey Buchanan, I thought, was one of the biggest secrets of our team all year, with, like you mentioned, 12 points a game. Our point guard, Hallie Turner, was very unselfish when Cal was getting those minutes down the stretch, because she was our starting point guard all year, Hallie, and she continued to start. But senior-led Cal, she just sort of got it and rolled with it for us.
No, absolutely. So you guys cut down the nets. It's done. You've punched your ticket to the party. What is it like at that selection show, waiting to see where you're going to go or who you're going to play. And then what's it like seeing that number one next to your name? What's it like to know not only are you hosting for the first time ever, but now your number one seed is going to be right there in your own backyard, and you've got it laid out for you?
Well, being on the National Selection Committee, we win the conference championship, and Ginger Colvin, Kemsworth coach, is actually on the committee with me, so we beat them, and she comes by my hotel at 5:30 the next morning to pick me up, and we're going to the airport to fly out to Kansas City because we have a meeting that night. But we actually get snowed out, and Coach Colvin and I had to Zoom in. So I sort of had the heads up that we were a number one seed. It was a long process. It's a 2-day process. So I knew going in we were number one, and very blessed and thankful. It's voted on by 12 different people. It's not as sketchy. So we were number one, but our players didn't know. And fortunate to host. And our team motto this year, and a lot of people have heard it, and it can be cheesy because it's old and it's by Young Jeezy. But our motto was put on for your city. And it was like, even on days you don't feel like it, when we were on our losing streak, going to practice early in the morning, put on for your city, you know. And the irony of that is our city put on for us. Because we had that big thing at a movie theater here in town, and when our number one came up across and we were hosting, man, our fans were there. They appreciated it, but our kids really loved it, and they were really excited to host. And our crowd here was just massive. Playing here was a great experience, not just for us, but for all the visiting teams that were here as well.
Absolutely. That was definitely, I can only imagine that feeling for your girls, just the relief that I'm sure weighed off their shoulders of all the hard work, and not only to be recognized for, but recognized on such a scale. It was definitely, I'm sure, a nice feeling. I made a bracket. I like to make brackets even for the NAIA. I'm going to be honest. I didn't have you guys coming out the second round. I'm sorry. And
thank goodness.
It just wasn't in the cards for me. I gotta own up to it. And the punishment was that you all shattered my brackets. You didn't break them. You just shattered them. Straight shattered them. You went through, obviously beat the 16th seed, then the 8th seed, and then the 4th seed. And it set up a matchup that, and like you mentioned, Southern Oregon at the time, the 2 seed in your quad, they were undefeated. They were another one of the presumed Red Banner contenders all year. I'm not going to ask what the message was before the game. I want to know, did the team seem different mentally, looking at yet another mountain to climb when they've already climbed through so many and it overcome them? Did they seem different mentally? Did their mannerisms, did they just seem like a different group than when maybe the first time, like you mentioned, that first practice of the year when you have a Murray State on the horizon? Did they seem different mentally for that Southern Oregon game?
Yeah, just mentioning back where you said, going into next year, people will have a short memory on this. Sterling, we were able to play really well, and they went through their conference tournament. But when we beat Benedictine, we knew what type of team we had beat. They were senior-led, veteran, great coach who has a Final Four, Chad Folsom in himself. So we knew we had won a big-time game at home there. Even our players had mentioned it before we played them, saying, Coach, this team's good, which admits out prepared us for that. We go out there. Hastings was really good. You know, and the way they pressed us, they were young, they were big, they were really good. But we get to Southern Oregon, you're right. It was a little something different. Here's what I mean by that. They're undefeated. They're playing with a little chip on their shoulder because they feel like, rightfully so, they could have been a number one seed, undefeated, and we're their number one seed in our bracket. We got the 1 seed, they're the 2 seed. So now they get to prove why they're the number 1 seed and we should have been 2, so to speak. So they had a little more fuel in their fire there, but they come out storming on us. Their post kid's really good. We come back and tie it up, and then right before the half, like a minute 30, it's like 29-28. They go on like 11-0 run or 10-0 run, and I go in halftime, and our energy's different. It's like, and this is exactly what I told them. I said, doubt is a mean thing. Doubt will steal your joy. It can steal your future. It can steal an opportunity that we have right now. And I just kept hammering it on. Doubt's hard. Doubt's tough, and you're letting doubt creep in your mind against a great team. And we come out, and I was messing with our SID and AD too, Diamond Day McCulley. I winked at him. We got this. I don't know. I was just doing that with him. Our players went on a stretch. Cal and Kylie hit some massive threes for us. And there was a timeout. I looked up. I said, we're still down 10. They don't know it, though. They don't know we're down 10. And it's just we have a different type of energy. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. the name right now, disrespectful, I don't remember, just their great post player goes down with a knee injury. And when she did, our players come to the bench. I seen a couple of tears in their eyes. And I said, hey, we're good. Let's gather ourselves, especially our point guard, Cal, because she'd been through it. And it was the perfect storm. She gets hurt. We hit, 8 threes maybe. And it just all came together there at the perfect time for us to finish that game, to go to a Fab Four. And 10 years ago, people don't remember this, when we were in Elite 8, our point guard did not play the Elite 8 game because of a knee injury. So sort of wild that 10 years later it comes back around like that.
No, for sure. Everything, all those little moments that honestly only you and people that were there were going to remember, it definitely makes each next moment feel a little different, feel a little more important and more emotional. The dream run did obviously end in the next game against what I feel like, and I'm sure you would agree, the gold standard of NAIA women's basketball in the Dort Defenders, back-to-back national champions. You got to respect what they have been able to do in these past 2 years. It's now been about 4 months since that magical run. You're about 3 months away from the season once everybody gets back on campus and all that kind of stuff. What will you remember most from February 22nd to March 24th of 2025 when you think back to the very short, like you mentioned, but everlasting run that you all created?
Yeah, I might have mentioned it earlier. I did that when we were out there. I said if you could put it in the bottle and channel it, you could sell it for $1 million. It just went by so fast. It seems like when you're going like the previous year, we lost 13 in a row after the injury. It seemed like that season just went by slow, and I was coaching for my life. This year I was just coaching or watching, and I was pretty emotional out there. I told my wife, I'd get up every morning. I said, just one more time. We need this one. And you just didn't want it to end. Those 9 days went by really fast out there. Like you mentioned, Southern Oregon, man, they were such a good basketball team, greatly coached. And you come up against Dort, you just don't get to play in atmospheres like that. 7,000-8,000 people in the arena because Briarcliff's playing, Dort's playing, Indiana Wesleyan. Wow, they're coming to us first weekend of the year. How good they were. And to get in line, my mother and uncle were out in line, and I got a picture from them, and it was a huge line just to get in the arena in Sioux City. And I got to give a tip of the cap to Sioux City. Our whole NAIA, from Abby Schultz to Phil Wester, Mike Skaggs, Katie Green, NAIA puts on a big time. We had a blizzard out there on a Wednesday before we played, and some events had to be canceled. So, just tons of memories out there. Our hosts were great. We didn't want it to end. It happened so fast. I was not tired until the bus ride home. Our kids would give out. But it was just a magical run against a great Dort team who finished it out. I went back and finally watched the film about 2 months ago, and it was the same situation. It was a close game about 2 minutes ago in the first half, and, man, they just took off. And that got really loud in there, which really I don't think affects us, but it was an atmosphere that you're not going to forget. It was very, very intense, and it was a great basketball game.
Before we go to the next to the next season and we start previewing a little bit with you here, I do want to know, again, I firmly believe that the Mid-South is up there. If you don't want to say the best, at least top 3, and I'm even hesitant to say top 2. What is it about the Mid-South that is just so impressive from the talent that you all, as a coaching staff, from you and everybody around there, for recruiting, for developing, for putting on non-conference teams that test you? What is it about the Mid-South that makes it so impressive to not only come out of it, but to compete every single night?
Coaches and players. Again, you have to have a scout every night, and that ain't a small scout. It's a deep scout. You have to practice hard all week. You have to prepare all week. The coaches and players in this league are top notch. And I'm glad you mentioned other leagues because sometimes you'll have a down year in a league or two, but the GPAC's legit. 5 of our Sweet 16, it's not Sweet, NAIA doesn't refer to it as Sweet 16, but the 16 teams were 5 of them were Mid-South. And it was just, that's proofs in the pudding there. And they just prepared for it. I mean, you just look at our players in our league right now. Georgetown's point guard McDaniel, she was finished playing her 4 years. She's going to Boston College to play a year. The great point guard at Campbellsville, Lauren Lee, she's going to Purdue Fort Wayne D1. So we have D1 players in our league. We have D1 players on our team. And our kids understand the level of play here. It means something to win a conference championship. It also means something that you have an opportunity to win a national championship. So, like I mentioned earlier, I hate when people say at your level, because our level's big time with some big time players and big time coaches. So, I just think our league prepares you for everything. You can't get this at a lot of places, and that's why we've been fortunate, been happy to stay here.
No, absolutely, and I agree that the conversation or the debate when you talk about NAIA, you can tell it has, but it's still got to get to a level of, it's not at your level. It's not like that anymore. This level is just as good as any other level. I've seen it in my own two eyes, and I've felt it, like you mentioned, that electricity, especially, and sometimes it might not even be a playoff game. It might just be a rivalry game. It might just be one of those games where it's just extra something in the air, but it has been surreal for me to see it up close and take it in. Shifting now to next season, you return 13 players, and we're going to talk about that sophomore class, because I do think they're primed for a big jump here. But we all know this starts and ends with the Hart sisters. In that run, Madison, first-team All-American, Micah, second-team All-American. In that 9-game run that they had to end the season, combined, they put up 40 points per game, 17 rebounds, and shot 45% each from the field. For Madison, she also crossed 1,000 points and 500 career rebounds. How excited are you to know that you get to see this one more time, not just from a player standpoint, but just from that sister aspect? You know, a lot of kids out there with siblings, they would love to do this. You know, I have a younger brother myself, and I would have loved to play with him at any level, let alone at this level, and be able to win with him. So just talk about how excited you are to see them as players one more time, but also understand that with Madison's last year coming up, she's going to take it a little bit extra because of the emotional side of it.
Yeah, just blessed. You know, easily we could get caught up in seeing postseason, like, hey, we got to get back to Sioux City. Hey, we got to win a conference championship again. We have to do this. I think we just have to soak up every moment, you know, from preseason to first game of the year, just to enjoy it, the process, because, you know, we will have a storm at some point during the season. It won't go as easy. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll go as smooth as those last 8 games. But you just have to soak that up, because I said it's going to be hard to get players like that in the future. We'll work our tail off to get them, but just embrace it. Like I said, that run when they went, like, I think it was the Benedictine game here. Looked at the stat at halftime. Madison had like 19-11. I mean, I'm just sitting back, maybe calling the player to get the ball, but that's about it. I'm just watching her go to work. And it's very unselfish, able to kick it off a double. And again, our whole team's unselfish. We respect each other. Having those two at the top as leaders along with the other kids, that's what complements each other, is the type of people they are. I think that's why it allows things to mesh.
No, absolutely. And we're going to talk about some of those players, but I wanted to talk about, because I've heard you say it a few times where, you know, there are multiple moments throughout last year that you were just calling a player to here, but more so anything you were just watching and letting the players play and letting them be basketball players and not be robots. Talk a little bit about the trust you have in your team to be able to do that, because there are some coaches who say they want to do that, but then a little hesitant, but then a little more hands-on. But you seem like we practice for these moments. We understand what the scout says, we understand what the game plan is, but we also understand at this level, after that ball goes up in the air on that jump ball, that scout can probably be thrown out the book, because this is a whole new game and a whole new atmosphere. So just talk about a little bit about the freedom that you give your players on any given night.
This is probably the way we practice. You know, our kids know what a good shot is, what a bad shot is. A lot of unselfishness there. It's just the way you practice. I don't know if it's a certain thing. I set our goal this year. We looked at the top 3 teams in our league last year in Georgetown, Cummins, and Campbellsville. They were scoring up in the 80s. I said, we want to do that. So I tell our freshman point guard, Hallie Turner, make me have to slow you down. And I'm big about execution, big about scoring out of bounds, things like that, putting people in the right situations, but make us have to slow you down. And we run some 5-out stuff, and we're doing some ISOs. You know, I would just flat out ask certain players, hey, what do you want in this situation? Do you want it on the block? Do you want it at the elbow? We'd run something to take a double team away. It was hard to double when you got Mickey Buchanan out there that can shoot it so well, and Madison on the block. So we just try to put our kids in a situation, and they were big about executing. But again, that sort of clicked. Like I said, we had to grow up, and I think if you were in a different league, you could hide that. So we had to go through those growing pains where we didn't get to hide it. We had to have good post defense. We had to have a good post game. We had to have good execution and timing against pressure. And again, another league, we probably could have hit it and felt better about ourselves, but we knew exactly who we were because we had to go through those times.
Absolutely, and you mentioned there are two other players in this sophomore class that I do want to talk about here aside from Micah, Hallie Turner and Mikey Buchanan. Hallie led the team in assists, and Mikey, like you said, third in scoring and could explode for 20 on any given night if you didn't respect her with her ability to shoot the ball. Why should we be excited for this season that these two could have and could be the next era, so to speak, of Wildcat basketball on the women's side when you pair them with Micah for the future in the next few years?
You just said Hallie, her assist. Obviously, she's got great players around her, but she finds them. She's got a great flow game. She competes every possession defensively. Communicator as a young point guard. And I don't mean just talking. It's touching. She'll, touch them, tell them where to go, or free throw in the timeout. Just great energy. You see pictures of that when she was on the bench during our run at times when Cal was in that spot. But she's very instrumental during the year for us. And then you mentioned Mickey. When we recruited Micah, it was the same way. We're bringing that package together. Any given night, Mickey Buchanan could be our best player, and that comes straight from Madison and Micah's mouth. Like, she blow up in some games, have some big ones. And people don't know this. And then sort of she did, but she did know it. She tweaked her ankle really bad in the North Alabama exhibition right before Christmas. And we got looked at after season and actually had surgery. She's back to walking now, but she had a torn ligament all second half. So I think she'll be even more explosive. She will. She can get up there and snap the rim. But ceiling's so high for that kid. I can see that kid averaging 17, 18 next year. And that way you have more than just a couple weapons. You got 5 weapons, and she can guard you inside out. I thought when she struggled to guard inside a couple times this year, we can move to perimeter. She'd guard on the perimeter. MJ Simmons was great with our post defense when we did that. So very versatile from that standpoint. And back with Mickey getting 100%, I think you'll see. She can really pass it too. I think he just has to have that mindset to go get her 20 a night and not be satisfied with 12 or 13.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to see the three of them as well as that entire team coming back for this year. Before I let you go, is there anything that you really wanted to highlight from this past year? Whether it's a story, whether it's a person, whether it's just the whole run itself on a different perspective. Is there anything that you really want to give a moment here to just let the people know how important this was for you specifically to go through that run that you guys had?
Yeah, just the whole landscape of basketball at any level. We're on the bus ride home, and I see everybody transferring, going to different. People tried to get some of our players, and that's respectful to them. But we have a true team. Like you look up, and I see some teams only have 2, no matter what level, only 2 and 3 players coming back. And when all our players are coming back, that just shows the respect they have for each other. It's the fun times of coaching. You coach long enough, you have some tough years, some locker rooms that maybe don't get along, but this locker room gets along, the team's staying together. We feel strong. We added the right pieces to continue the growth of our team. So just want to soak this up as long as we can. We'll continue to recruit for our future, but at the same time, recruit in-house. I see all these coaches on the road right now, and they should be. We all should be, but make sure you're still recruiting your own players in-house, making sure we're good to go, and keep this team, because you can only have it for so long, special runs, and we want to keep it as long as possible.
And if you do, I'm sure there's going to be another special run in there, probably this year, if people don't give you guys the respect that you not only deserve but have earned in the past multiple years. But Coach, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Again, first ever episode. I hope it was just as fun for you as it was for me. I'm very excited for the season to come. I'm very excited to cover you all as well as everybody in the NAIA. That'll do it for this episode of the NAIA Women's Basketball Podcast. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe.